Bonjour, mon ami créative, et bienvenue à Paris. Okay, back to English. Hello, my crafty friend, and welcome to Paris. This video is an unboxing of my newest Etsy listing, which is the Paris treasure box. It's tied up with some pretty gold stretchy lace that would look so good as a closure for a junk journal, or maybe just decorating a page. Anyway, this little collection, or should I say big collection, fills up this beautiful Paris box that I found while out thrifting one day. I love the design on this box with the black and white image of the Eiffel Tower, the name of Paris in sparkly red letters, and this really cool junk journal looking lace motif that decorates the top. This looks like it could be a shoebox for a pair of high-end designer French shoes, but it's little and itty-bitty, and I thought it would be the perfect size to hold a junk journal. So I've basically reached that stage of crafting where I have amassed a collection of stuff bigger than I can possibly conceive of using all of it in this lifetime. And so I've decided to put together some curated collections featuring authentic, vintage, and antique items pertaining to specific themes that I've thought would make really cool journals. But because I've got, I think, 5 journals I'm currently making, I just don't have the time to realize all of my ideas and take them all to the final book version. So I thought maybe one of you lovely ladies out there has Paris on your mind, have maybe thought of making a Paris themed journal. And if so, here is literally all the stuff you need other than the pages. Other than the pages, this is pretty much all the textiles, the ephemera, the stuff that you could possibly need, and even a pretty Parisian box to keep it all in. And so let's get right into it. After I put this collection together, I was going through my collection of used stamps, and I found one more thing that would be perfect. So this is kind of like the cherry on top of the collection. This little stamp with the fleur de lis and what looks like the papal hat. This is such a cool little chatelaine with a crown, a key, a heart, and another fleur de lis, symbol of France. I thought this would look so cool hanging down the spine of a journal, but you could also really take it apart and use each charm separately. So this would look really cool tucked into a book page or hanging off the side. Anyway, I'm not going to waste your time in this video telling you what to do with all the supplies. I'll just show you what they are. This is quite a big cutting of one of my all-time favorite saris. You can really use either side, even though this is the back. The blue flowers on gold look kind of cool too, just like the gold flowers on blue. This, imagine this kind of like cut just that bottom strip part and fold it over as the cover of a book. It looks a lot like the designs you see on antique French book covers. So enough of this fabric to cover like 5 journals, depending on whether you make the little journals or the big journals, maybe 2 to 5. This envelope is an authentic piece from 1974 that contained a letter sent from the Republic of Congo to France. It has a really cool texture. I love this kind of old paper, and I've stuffed it full of goodies. In fact, let's put this stamp in here too, just so it doesn't get lost. So it has a genuine French receipt, beautiful big piece of paper with original handwriting and everything from 1929. You see these in a lot of junk journal flip through videos, don't you? A lot of us crafters have gotten into using vintage French receipts. It must have been held together by some kind of a rusty pin at one point, because I did not do that through crafting. That's some original distressing there. I've also put into here 3 beautiful sheets of canceled, not 3, 4 beautiful sheets of canceled French stamps that are left on their original paper. I love how this one shows a rotary phone. Things that we wouldn't have thought would be nostalgic have become nostalgic, right? Like dialing a phone. I still remember how it felt and how it sounded to use one of those. I love the looks of the beautiful women on these stamps. This one with the rooster is fun. Anyway, these make great little booklets, great little bookmarks, and just cool things to staple to journal pages. This fleur-de-lis sticker was actually in a letter from one of my pen pals, and I thought I would share it here with this sample set. Just a little snippet of paper, the stamp I showed you already, and 2 of my all-time favorite French stamps that feature what looks to me like a fairy tale castle. Every magical craft project needs a touch of magic, right? Like a little fairy tale something or other. And then I've held this envelope together with some lovely chandelier crystals. Can't you just imagine these hanging from a chandelier in the great hall of a French mansion or something? A little souvenir of Paris. This cool little keychain. This tiny little envelope features the Eiffel Tower on the inside, and I have stuffed it absolutely full. I didn't even count them, but it's a lot of Queen Elizabeth stamps. And even though that's not a French thing, it's the friendly neighbors to the north. It's like France's Canada. And then I've put lots of gorgeous textiles. I feel like France is known for haute couture, for fancy clothing and fancy jewelry. Even as I say couture, wouldn't this make a really awesome cuff bracelet? Forget junk journals, like pop a clasp on that baby and it's instant jewelry. But I also think it would look gorgeous. I've put that in a lot of the journals I've made too. So these are embroidered textile pieces from India, but a lot of the French couture utilizes textiles made in India. And I was recently watching a video about historical fashions and historical costume. And, you know, even as far back as the 13th century, 14th century, fancy fabrics were being imported into the West from India. So we might think of it as kind of a new thing, the world trade and being able to utilize materials from far distant lands and other cultures. But that's something that's been going on since the times of the Silk Road. So for thousands of years, people have been trading and sharing and exporting the materials that they specialize in. So that's how I justify putting Indian stuff in my Paris box, and to me it makes sense, right? And don't we all love having some pretty things in our crafts? I'm kind of focusing on this one specifically because this color palette really speaks old French glamour to me. I adore the flowers in this particular piece of fabric. So here is just a big roll of sparkly tulle that I've held together with a gorgeous ring. This ring, you can see the silver plating is wearing off on the bottom, but the top, the front, looks as good as new. It's not even missing any of the crystals. Like, they look so pretty. It looks like a bunch of diamonds around a pearl. And even though it's costume jewelry, it looks beautiful as a piece that represents French elegance. Would look great as a journal closure, for example. You could loop some ribbon through that and tie a journal together with it. It's all fake, like faux pearl, faux diamonds, faux silver, but real beauty. Okay, so this piece I'm very excited about. We've got a loose sequin on it. We'll keep that together. Even little bits can be good in crafting. So this has such a cool border. It has some pulls to it, so it might not be wearable anymore, but the illustrations just look so French, so chic, so elegant. Look at this high-end couple driving in their early version of a convertible. He just screams French with his little upturned mustache and his cap and his tie. And I love how the couple are matchy-matchy. She's in a white hat, he's in a white hat. She's wearing her elegant pearls. And so this is an entire scarf, which would also make a wonderful book cover, but it could also be cut into pieces. Like imagine just this being used as a pocket. You could cut out, for example, just this beautiful lady. Her little curl of hair almost looks like a mangtika, like the Indian hair part jewelry. Imagine just cutting her out, backing her onto some coffee-dyed paper, and using her as a journaling card. Like there's so many different crafty possibilities with each of these pieces. I was tempted to cut this fabric in half and keep half of it for myself, but like I said, at this point, I have more supplies than time to use them, so it's your problem now. If you buy the set, what to do with all the cool stuff. This beautiful golden peacock lace trim. I think I've used this in at least 10 of my journals. I've given you a nice long snippet that makes a beautiful border to a page. This gorgeous sequined trim. A card full of lovely little tassels. Some floral ribbon. Imagine going to a high-end boutique, having a dress made for you, and then taking it home in a package wrapped up with something like this. Some gold lace trim. I have lots of favorite colors, but one of them is this kind of light aqua green. Okay. So, of course, I made a little tiny journal to go with this set. If you're buying something from my shop, I feel like you should get at least something that I've made, not just a collection of stuff to make something by yourself. So the closure has this beautiful little Eiffel Tower charm. This was actually from a pair of earrings that I thrifted. The closure is just some vintage lace with almost like a little heart motif. I've clipped this clip-on earring to it. It's very avant-garde, probably from like the 80s. It's big, it's bold. I can't imagine wearing it, but it looks really cool on a journal. And then the cover is made from a piece of vintage wallpaper from a Sears wallpaper sample book that I've used in many crafts. And it has just a really cool rough straw texture to it, so nice and neutral. You could put a picture of anything behind this sari trim, this bejeweled sari trim, and it would look good. What I've put into it is a big journal tag that I made out of a piece of printable on cardstock. It's a print from Medieval Mirage, her Bohemian Bazaar collection, which is my favorite printable set ever. And I've put just some beautiful paisley and some lovely roses on it. The paisley is open, so that's a pocket. You could put something in. I've kind of left it empty, so it's up to whoever gets it to do their own crafting. Inside, the first page has this lovely sheer kind of accordion stretchy lace made into a pocket, where I've put the print of a Victorian card that has one of my favorite designs of all my Victorian cards. First of all, I love anything sea-themed and beachy, so seeing a big seashell in the front looks really exciting to me. Butterflies, of course, that represent personal growth and transformation. And the lovely flowers, the roses and these little white flowers, I forget what they're called, but they just look so cute. And they remind me of some of the sacred temple rituals in India, where when you go into a traditional Hindu temple, one of the practices is to offer a bouquet of flowers presented in a conch shell to the deity, and that's called arghya. And so it was kind of cool to see a Victorian painting of a bouquet of flowers in a conch shell out of the cultural context of arghyam, but still looking absolutely beautiful. So personally, I love little things like that, where you see one thing and it reminds you of something else. This backing is from one of my printable sets in my Etsy shop of coffee dyed papers. So it's a paper that I coffee dyed and then I stenciled over it with white paint. I love the effects. I'll try to make more paper like that someday because I think it turned out so cool. It's just very worky. This is original antique French ephemera. It's a page from an architect's and engineer's manual from 1912. And it looks so cool the way the graphic designer wrote the word out of words, spelled it with letters. I love those antique designs, and it went with the set because of course it's advertising something in Paris. And then these are prints I made on linen paper of more pages from within that architectural manual. And I just love these. I've included all 12 months. It tells you the name of the month, so starting with Janvier, January of 1912, 1912. And then it has really cool information. I think I've showed you guys this in a previous video if you're one of my regular viewers, but if you haven't seen it before, I'll give you the brief rundown. So it starts with the first sunrise, the first sunset, on the 10th of the month, the sunrise and sunset, and on the 20th of the month, the sunrise and the sunset. So you kind of get an idea of the length of the days, and it gives you that for each of the months. And then there's a list where you see letters, numbers, and names. And I cracked the code. Wasn't too hard to do since I went to a French Catholic school as a kid. So LMMJVSD stands for Lundi, Mardi, Mercredi, Jeudi, Vendredi, Samedi, and Dimanche. In other words, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So you have all the days of the week. So you know that the 1st of January 1912 was a Monday, and it was the feast day of the Circoncis. The 2nd was a Tuesday, and it was the feast day of Saint Macaire. And notice how next to the name, some have an S, some have an STE, SSTE, and some are just the word. So the S is the abbreviation for saint in a masculine way. So Saint Macaire was a male saint. On Tuesday the 3rd, it's Saint Geneviève, that's STE because Geneviève was a female saint. Saint Rigobert, Saint Amélie, and then the 6th, it's not a saint, it's Epiphanie, so that was the feast day of the Epiphany. Anyway, it's kind of cool in that you get kind of a cool juxtaposition of spiritual traditions in that you see the astrological signs, so February with Pisces and January with Libra. It's interesting to see zodiac symbols along with French Catholic celebration days. So just interesting, right? Like the Taurus bull, the Gemini twins. What's that one? I think that's the crab for Cancer. It doesn't really look like a crab. Anyway, it's just really interesting to see. So that is more genuine 1912 paper. Oh no, wait, that's Libra. So what was I looking at here? It can't be Virgo. It's funny, I would have thought January would be Capricorn. Anyway, I'll figure that out figure that out off camera. I won't bore you with all those details, but I just thought it was such a cool thing to have in an architect and engineer's manual. I've kept the originals in my personal junk journal as part of my personal collection, but I love making copies of it because I think it's just one of the coolest finds, the coolest exciting finds I've ever made in one of the antique books I've bought for journaling. More Paris. So you could either keep this all together, use it as a little book to write in, tuck it into another journal. I used really decorative printables on the reverse side of all the printed pages, but it's a light enough design that you could very easily write, draw, or collage over it. And I just love the illustrations on these old advertisements, just so cool. And the architectural schematic drawings. And then because everything that I sell from the Art of Gems, well, maybe not everything, but most of the things I sell, I like to include some kind of crystal, some kind of gem. It's the Art of Gems stationery after all. So this one has a cool little sample card containing genuine crystal specimens of seraphinite. Seraphinite is a green crystal said to awaken and cleanse the heart chakra, and I chose to include it because it's named after the seraphine angels, since it has this really pretty silvery wing-like pattern that runs through the stone, and you can kind of see it especially on that piece and on the top piece. When the light hits it just right, it kind of looks like a butterfly wing or something. It's really pretty. So because we have somewhere in here the feast day of Archangel Michael and Archangel Gabriel, it felt fitting to include a gemstone that represents the angels. So there is the little journal that comes with the set. It's really easy to close it. You don't even have to tie a full bow, just kind of tie the lace off to the side. And I will clip our little Eiffel Tower back onto it. It's always easier to do these things when I'm not filming a video, when I'm looking directly at my hand instead of at the cell phone screen. But I like to do it on camera, not off, because when I watch other people do journal videos, sometimes they'll leave things unfinished and I get a weird little OCD about it. Like, no, I want to see it tied shut again. Anyway, this is a really cool old postcard. It's a genuine old postcard from Madeira, Fort de Pico, in Portugal. So it's not really French, it's from Portugal to Canada. Having a great time, going up mountain in a cart drawn by cows or bulls? Poor cows, poor bulls. Come on, humans, do better. Be more athletic, climb the mountain yourself, don't make animals carry you up. So the message on the card notwithstanding, the stamp is really cool and I think the scene is really beautiful. This was from one of my cool vintage finds. I love to buy jars of old jewelry when I go thrifting and antiquing. This watch was in one of them and it just looks so beautiful. The stones, of course, are fake. Like, you can tell these are just painted purple beads. But the watch face has a really beautiful mother of pearl. And I think that would look cool used as a bookmark tucked into a journal. You can tie a ribbon to the old clasp and hang it down the spine of a book. Like, I just think there's so many cool crafting possibilities with old jewelry and old watch pieces. If you see a lot of my journal flip through videos, you'll see I use lots and lots of jewelry. So this is a full, complete, entire old French book. And I love using old French book pages. Oh, sorry, it's not old. It's not a complete entire one. It has had pages removed. I can't remember. I don't think I did that. When I remove pages to use in my crafting, I actually take off the staples so that they're not being torn. So it would have been like that when I bought it. But anyway, so you can't really read the whole story if you read French because it's missing some middle pages. But these look absolutely amazing, made into pockets or used as journal pages. It has a really cool old texture to it. I didn't write that. I don't know who did, but they've written down page 4, 31, and 43. So obviously there would be things there that inspired them. I love the vintage cover. Like, how cool would it be to take this apart and actually use that cover as the cover for a journal? Anyway, so there's that almost whole book. And then we're nearing the end, guys, I promise. Oops. I've also included a bunch of pages from another French book, so you get kind of a nice variety here. I love the kind of torn decal edge on some of these pages. This paper is a lot thicker. It feels, the texture is almost soft like a cotton rag paper, although I don't think it's that. It would be a cheaper paper pulp, but really cool thick feeling paper and really cool thin feeling paper. Paper, 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 am I right? So these pages, I don't know whether they're Chinese or Japanese, but I bought it at the same antique store where I found the old French books. This is some gorgeous vintage. Most of my Indian trims are newly made, but these are vintage pieces, snippets from old saris that I bought into a roll. You can easily pull off the gold stuff on the edge and the green backing, and then you get the original fabric. I won't do that, I'll leave it up to you. You could use it intact and make a little cool mini book just like this, and there's an instant book cover, or you can take off the strips to use for tabs or collages, or like I said, I shouldn't tell you what to do with the materials, but suffice it to say there's a lot of crafty options. Oh, that's just a loose string. And the last thing in here is this pretty Indian, more modern, but new Indian trim with the pretty embroidery and the pretty sequins. So there you have it, the Paris treasure box, stuffed full with wonderful things that you can use in your junk journals. It even includes a little mini junk journal. You can use it in junk journal craft. You can use these to decorate envelopes, to decorate letters to pen pals, gifts that you make. Like, I'm just throwing it out there that you don't have to make junk journal stuff out of these. You could use it for whatever kind of crafting or textile work you want. The box is so pretty that even once you've used all the stuff that's in it, it's worth holding on to, filling up with your own treasures. If you're like me, you'd probably buy something like this and not even use it for a couple of months. You would just look at it. My tendency is when I buy new craft supplies, I look at them every day for like a while and tell myself I can't use it because I want to just keep it. And then after a few months, I'll be working on something and I'll remember one of those supplies and think, you know, that would actually be perfect in here. And by then I've looked at it for long enough and I come to terms with the idea of actually using it. Maybe you do that too. Let me know in a comment. And if you do buy it, I would be very curious to hear what you plan to make out of all of these things, if you plan to make something at all. Anyhow, this collection called the Paris Treasure Box comes exactly as you see it. Everything that I went through in the video will be a part of it and more. I'm not going to show you what the and more is, but if you've ever purchased something from my shop, you know that you never just get the item you buy. You will always get a fun little bundle of surprise goodies along with it. So yeah, you can find that. I'll put the link to my Etsy shop in the video description. Thank you so much for traveling to Paris with me today. So much love to you. Happy crafting. I hope you're inspired to get creative and to get journaling. We'll see you in the next video. Au revoir.